first of all, please tell the people what you do.
Well, I'm Kim Furlong. I'm the CEO of the Canadian Venture Capital and Private Equity Association.
Yes.
And we're an organization that brings together investors from the biggest pension plans to the smallest venture funds.
Yeah.
And we exist to serve them and advocate on their behalf.
So you are solving a lot of problems every day and potentially putting out a lot of fires, would you say?
Well, in the last few weeks after the federal budget, we've been very busy on capital gains. So
Yes.
yeah, we do tackle big problems, and we make sure that Canadian entrepreneurs and investors have the best environment in which to build and invest in companies.
Yes. So what are you looking for when you're looking for investors to bring into the company?
Repeat that question?
Like, what are you looking for when you're looking for new investors? Like, when you're building your team, essentially.
Well, investors come to us to be part of our network.
Yes.
So that we'll speak on their behalf. When we think about the different programs, different incentives that are important to have in the market, we'll think about the SHRED credit, which are credits for R&D investments in companies, and we advocate for those credits to be as generous and focused as possible. Like NACO, we were part of the Startup Visa program, where investors could look to founders in other countries and bring them to Canada. There's these programs that the federal government has done called the VCAP and Vicky program that are fund to fund, and those generate a lot of capital flowing to our asset class and stimulate the dollars that go into investors that then pick the companies that they'll invest in.
Very cool. I got stressed out hearing that. How stressed are you?
Well, it's not an easy environment to navigate. Like over the last couple years, we saw less capital flowing globally to the alternative asset class. Venture capital is a risky business.
Yes.
You make a lot of investments and hope that one or two are really going to knock it out of the park and return the dollars that your investors are looking for to create that alpha. And so globally, it's not an easy time to invest. In Canada, as a number of policies and a number of things that are coming, what I call headwinds. So yeah, it's not without its challenge. But we have solutions, and we have a really compelling case to make in terms of why Canada, over the last decade, has become a really interesting place to build a company. How talent that for years we were trying to attract back home is voluntarily coming back home. And that the future of Canada's prosperity is really anchored in diversifying it. And these companies are going to be the actors and the companies and the employees and the founders that are really going to put that in motion, solving the world's biggest problems.
Why do you feel so passionate about Canada?
Well, I think it's a beautiful place in which to build a country. We have a very diverse talent pool. We have a very educated system. Like, we're graduating engineers and people that are really talented. I spent a lot of time in the US, and some of the clusters outside of the valley that are trying to emerge are seeing capital flowing to them, but they don't have the talent that we have. In AI and engineering, like what we create in terms of research and life sciences, we're always ahead of the game when it comes to discovery and like the technology. Think about AI.
Incredible.
Are we going to win on that front? We invented it. All of the intellectual property and the thought process in bringing this technology to the world is Canadian. The question mark is, do we have the ambition? And are we willing to take the risk to double down and to put the dollars necessary in the effort to create the environment that will enable it? And that question mark is still unanswered. We don't know. And that's the environment in which we're navigating.
Wow. As a Canadian, I always find myself amazed by how much talent and how much knowledge we have in Canada. What do you find is a setback? Because from my experience, I find a lot of Canadians to be a little shy. And you're in an industry that's about being able to take risk confidently. So is that something that you see, or is there anything else that kind of sets back Canadians and making those big risks?
See, I don't think Canadians are shy, and I actually think Canadians are really ambitious. I think individually, you're ambitious, I'm ambitious. I think it's collectively. We falter collectively.
Interesting. Okay, tell me more. I'm so interested.
I think about BlackBerry, think about Shopify, as we have these big, like we put a lot of our eggs in these like big corporate basket where you think like, this is it, like we've made it. And as soon as there's a little bit of a headwind or the company is not doing super well, they're like, oh yeah, we knew like this was not, like they weren't as great as they, instead of saying, you know what, no, collectively,
Yeah.
this is just a setback.
Yeah.
We regroup and we'll come back stronger. We believe that the management team in these companies are going to pivot. And I think when you look and you spend time with entrepreneurs and investors, they believe that Canada is where you can build anchors and grow it and be here selling to the world. Climate tech, AI,
Yeah.
deep tech. There's a number of spaces where we have the knowledge. And I do believe that individually, people have the ambition to grow. It's just collectively, will we all as a society be willing to absorb some of the failures
Yes.
to continue the course to be able to celebrate really big success?
Yes. So it's an issue of adaptability, really. Because
I think it's a culture shift.
it's a culture shift. Interesting. So when you're working with two sides of this, the idea makers, the investors, and you're working every single day, what would you say are some traits that people have to have and some traits that people can't have in this industry to be successful?
I think there's grit. I think when I travel from coast to coast, like
Yeah.
places like Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, even the Atlantic provinces,
Yeah.
like they are stacked against all odds, right?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of capital flowing there. It's not big centers of enterprise, and yet some of the companies, Verifin in Newfoundland,
Yeah.
that sold last year to the Nasdaq, like I think the example is you can build it everywhere, and Canada has that grit. Canada, when you think about our founders and the companies that we create, they often are seen as less risk takers in terms of like how big they're going to go and how much they're going to spend. But when you look at what they're building, it's solid. And I think in this environment where we've gone back to profitability versus growth at all costs, our founders are going to prove to the market that their determination, their grit, and their ability to stretch their budget and to make those runways longer, I think they're going to come out on top.
I love that. Is there a trait when you're working with someone that you're like, no, you're not going to be on my team? Is there something that you just know it's not going to work for chemistry?
Well, for me personally, is a lack of authenticity.
Okay.
If your ego's too big for the door, then you should probably not cross the door.
Yes. And as a woman in this industry, I'm at a point now, because we're in 2024, when we talk about women in these industries, I think like, what are we talking about? Because I feel like I'm a leader in my space, so I don't feel like that's a conversation I still want to have in 2024. But when you look at the data, it's still an important topic.
Yeah.
And we know that when women run businesses, the trajectory of the business is going to do better. we just know that statistically. Women are amazing. So with that said, how long have you been doing this for? And what kind of changes have you seen throughout the evolution of your career?
So I've been in my role for 5.5 years, and we've seen some movement upwards. A lot of women starting their own funds.
Yeah.
Women being placed at the head of large allocators.
Yeah.
There's something in the water in Quebec because BDC, Desjardins, la Caisse de
Yes.
dépôt et placement du Québec, Fonds d'Action, Fonds FTQ.
Love it.
All women.
All women, yeah, that's awesome.
All women leading this allocation. And so we can celebrate that.
Yeah.
But there's still room to continue to have inclusive workplaces. And I think that's what's going to make, and I think women leadership and how we lead has enabled men to be also more thoughtful about having some inclusive leaderships. But it's the young women that join our industry, will they stay the course to make it to the head of these organizations? Is it an industry that they want to be part of in the long run? And I think it's all our responsibility. And for CVCA, it's a mandate to make sure that we empower and lead and give tools and measure if you don't measure it, it doesn't get done. So we measure the state of diversity and inclusion in our industry, and so I celebrate the gains, but I'm still steadfast in making sure that we continue to grow and to be better.
Awesome. It was so great talking to you.
Nice
I learned
meeting
so
you as
much. I loved it. I love it. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, it was a
Seriously,
pleasure
you're a
meeting you.
pleasure. Thank you.